federal court decision that will follow Bill Barr around for the rest of his life like toilet paper stuck to his shoe. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. found last year that when Robert Mueller turned in his report on the Russia investigation to the Justice Department, Attorney General William Barr lied to the public about what was in it. The judge's ruling said, quote, Attorney General Barr failed to provide a thorough representation of the findings set forth in the report, causing this court to question whether Attorney General Barr's intent was to create a one-sided narrative about the Mueller report, a narrative that is clearly, in some respects, substantively at odds with the actual report. That was last year, a federal court finding that Trump's Attorney General, William Barr, told the public a porky pie, told the public an untrue story about what was in the Mueller report. Well, now, today, a second federal judge has just ruled that Bill Barr and the Trump-era Justice Department were also disingenuous with the court. They, in effect, lied to the court when they told her and they told the public a made-up story, a lie, about why former President Donald Trump was not put on trial, was not charged with obstruction of justice on the basis of the evidence that was collected against President Trump in Mueller's investigation. You might remember Mueller's report started with Volume 1, that was about what Russia did to interfere in the election. And then Volume 2, you probably remember, it laid out more than 10 instances in great detail of potentially criminal obstruction of justice committed by then President Trump. Now, when Mueller finished his report, you might remember that Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, told the public that he, William Barr, had consulted with Justice Department attorneys and had decided, on their advice, that despite these 10-plus detailed instances of alleged criminal obstruction of justice by President Trump laid out in the Mueller report, Bill Barr, consulting with Justice Department attorneys, had determined that despite all of that, nothing Trump did was really a crime. And so Trump shouldn't be prosecuted. Remember, Barr said that they didn't rely on this prohibition on a president being prosecuted while he's sitting in office. He said, actually, we decided at the Justice Department, I decided on consultation with Justice Department attorneys, that none of those things described constituted a crime. That's why Trump won't be charged. Listen to this. This is from the very, very top, the very start of Judge Jackson's ruling today. Quote, on Friday, March 22, 2019, Special Counsel Robert Mueller delivered his report of the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election to then Attorney General of the United States, William P. Barr. But the Attorney General did not share it with anyone else. Instead, before the weekend was over, he sent a letter to congressional leaders purporting to summarize the principal conclusions set out in the report, compressing into less than 4 pages the approximately 200 highly detailed and painstakingly footnoted pages of Volume 1, which discusses the Russian government's interference in the election, and the almost 200 equally detailed pages of Volume 2, which concerns acts taken by then-President Trump in connection with the investigation. The Attorney General's 4-page letter asserted that the special counsel did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction of justice. It went on to announce Attorney General Barr's own opinion that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish that President Trump committed an obstruction of justice offense. Judge Berman Jackson then continues, quote, the president then declared himself to have been fully exonerated. The Attorney General's characterization of what he had hardly had time to skim, much less study closely, prompted an immediate reaction as politicians and pundits took to their microphones and Twitter feeds to decry what they feared was an attempt to hide the ball. Even the customarily taciturn special counsel was moved to pen an extraordinary public rebuke in which he said in part, quote, the summary letter the department sent to Congress and released to the public late in the afternoon of March 24th did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of the special counsel office's work and conclusions. There is now public confusion about critical aspects of the results of our investigation. This threatens to undermine a central purpose for which the department appointed the special counsel, to assure full public confidence in the outcome of the investigations. The judge continues. Mueller called for the immediate release of his report, but it remained under wraps for another 3 weeks. On April 18, 2019, Attorney General Barr appeared before Congress to deliver the report. He asserted that he reached the conclusion he'd announced about not prosecuting President Trump for obstruction of justice, quote, in consultation with the Office of Legal Counsel and other Justice Department lawyers. The oversight group, CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, immediately fired off a Freedom of Information Act request for any records related to those consultations. The Justice Department demurred, meaning the Justice Department rejected that FOIA request to release the documents. The judge continues, quote, what remains at issue today is a memo to the Attorney General dated March 24, 2019, that specifically addresses the subject matter of the letter transmitted to Congress, the question of whether then-President Trump would be criminally prosecuted for obstruction of justice. What remains at issue today is that memo. The judge concludes, quote, it is time for the public to see that, too. Calling him personally disingenuous, saying the Justice Department took steps to, quote, obfuscate the true purpose of what they were doing. She says the Justice Department, quote, strongly resisted allowing her, even her, the judge, to see this document that they've been trying to keep secret, but she did see it, and when she did see it, she finally understood why they had been trying to keep it under wraps. She says, quote, the review of the document reveals that Attorney General Barr was not then engaged in making a decision about whether President Trump should be charged with obstruction of justice. The fact that he would not be prosecuted was a given. She says, quote, there was no decision actually being made as to whether the then president would be prosecuted.